And the only piece of success is traction, right? The only true thing is how much traction are you getting? That's what success is. Hi everyone, my name is Brennan. I'm CEO and co-founder of SoapBox. I'm actually going to talk to you about 5 things skateboarding actually taught me about startups, contrary to the winter boots I'm wearing. Kind of grew up skateboarding a lot before. It was my first passion, maybe before startups. So, first of all, we're all in here in a room trying to be founders or are founders or thinking about starting a company, and we talk a lot about failure, right? We failed once, we failed twice, or this person failed. We should kind of welcome that failure. We should celebrate it. The one question I have is, have you ever really seen someone fail? And I mean like truly face first fail. It's not something you want to do. As much as it's nice to celebrate that, not something you look forward to. So I'm going to introduce you to skateboarding, which is full of failure, and in fact, maybe more failure than success, although they hide as much as the failure as possible, whereas maybe we try to bring it out a little bit more. As I mentioned, big into skateboarding. I'm a self-taught developer and business school grad. I actually learned to develop because of skateboarding. This was like pre-YouTube. I wanted to put my skateboarding videos online, so I was like, oh, I got to have a website because YouTube didn't exist, and eventually got into development, and then into apps, and then into startups. First-time CEO and co-founder of SoapBox, and we make an enterprise application to help businesses become a lot more like successful startups. I'll talk a little bit about that, but before I do, quick quote, if only HP knew what HP knows, we'd be 3 times more productive. This is Louis Platt. He's the former HP chairman and CEO. He's really famous for this saying, maybe because at the time he was CEO, he had one big new competitor, which was Apple, coming out with the iPod and iTunes and all these computers people thought were cool. And both Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, actually, they met at HP. So if only Hewlett-Packard knew what they now know. What he's really getting at there is that the front lines have a ton of great ideas, and they exist kind of all over every organization. The bigger the organization, the more ideas that are hidden within it. But there's no way of bringing them to the headquarters' attention, right? Especially if you're geographically distributed, especially if you have facilities, especially if you're, there's huge spans of control and management. Which is unfortunate because about 80% of any organization's potential actually lies within the frontline ideas. So if management thinks they have this one great new idea to really improve the business or really build the business or make it bigger or approach new markets, that's only 20% of that organization's potential. There's so much more value in tweaking what you have and really accelerating what you have or finding those pinwheels or flywheels. So organizations need a way to manage this vast potential, right? Most of the ways they do it is pretty terrible. Right? They have these suggestion boxes, which a lot of employees refer to. I don't know if you guys work at big organizations. You probably refer to it as like the paper shredder or a black hole, or you walk past it and you feel like it mocks you because everyone says, "Oh, we care about our employees," and then they never open up that suggestion box. There's a lot of kind of mean reasons why suggestion boxes are bad, and what we did, and I'm not going to go into it too much, but we tackled those problems head on. Instead of kind of taking a suggestion box and putting it online, we really looked at how can we create a place that's accountable, that's transparent, that closes those feedback loops to get everyone engaged and excited about the change, helping you prioritize so you don't end up with thousands and thousands of ideas, you end up with 10. And then a two-way conversation. So it's not just ideas from your employees, it's also challenges and problems from the leadership so that there's a marketplace of solvable problems. That's what we do at SoapBox. We created it to move ideas from the front lines to the bottom lines. Fortunately for us, we've been able to work with some of Canada's, some of North America's, and I think I heard Australia in the opening, some of Australia's biggest, brightest brands who have been using it across their entire companies in some cases, or in sometimes small teams. But we're very, very fortunate with some of the clients that we've been able to work with and still do work with. And it started with some punk kid on a skateboard, but we've been also very fortunate with the people that we've hired and grown a pretty strong team here in downtown Toronto. And I like to kind of brag about this. We have a world-class culture. We focus a lot about it. everyone goes through this onboarding experience, so they kind of join the cult. It's really exciting. And then we're actually going to open source our employee handbook. I've shown it off to a couple people, and they said, oh my God, you got to share that. So follow me on Twitter. I think that's going to come eventually. My co-founder's writing a blog post about it, but that's coming out soon. And we've had some amazing results. And this is a tweet by the guy who's going to actually share that handbook. Grown 10x in the past 2 years. It's been a wild ride, and I want to say it's not easy. And we're definitely not there yet. We're definitely not successful. We're just on track. All right, so back to skateboarding. Remember this guy, and I'll skip it there. He's actually Nigel Houston, and he's arguably the best skateboarder in the entire world. And what you first saw there was a GIF. Probably if you searched fail on Giphy, you would find that GIF. This is him actually sticking the landing. So you might have seen him as inexperienced, but he's pretty experienced. And that leads to the first of the 5. The best at this are actually crazy. They're just totally nuts. If you look at Nigel, for example, that was a 15-foot drop. And not only did he just totally land almost on his head, he got back up and he did it again. And 15 feet isn't a small drop. I mean, we can kind of all visualize it, but if you've ever been to Kingston's Fort Henry, they have a dry moat there, and it was put there so that if there was foot soldiers marching up on Fort Henry, they wouldn't want to jump down 15 feet, because if you jump down 15 feet, you can break an ankle, and he landed on his side. Most people would never attempt that, right? Most people would say, this is stupid. Why do it? And then maybe even more people, even if they did, if they were thrown off that, they would have their senses knocked back into them, and they wouldn't do it again. He kept going. 80% of the businesses that are started fail within the first 5 years. And the number one reason, and this one surprised me, was I got into business for the wrong reasons. They were reading TechCrunch or Mashable, and they're like, oh, this guy raised $5 million and he just does an app for meetings. Or this guy raised $3 million and he just does, it sucks. Business sucks. Don't get into it for millions of dollars on TechCrunch. Fall in love with failing. Fall in love with falling down and getting back up and doing it again. And those moments, those tiny little moments where you do stick the landing, because that's what it's all about. And the second of all, if you are going to jump off a 15-foot ledge, you better believe it. You don't want to jump off and then just hope. If you're going to make that leap, make the leap, right? And fully believe it. Take the leap of faith. I got this one when I first started a lot. Don't believe your own BS. And I would kind of give you the opposite of that. Because I always interpreted it as, you're going to make these charts, you're going to make these things, and don't believe it, because it's all assumptions, and you'll figure it out along the way. The way I interpret it now is, if you're going to make those models, you better believe you can hit that assumption. You better have some sort of grit or something in your stomach that says, I'm making this assumption, but I know it's possible. If you're going to try to convince someone about your company or about your business or business model, you better believe it, right? It might be BS. And you might prove yourself wrong, but you better believe it. And then go in with a full intent to actually land that. So when Jamie actually did land this, he landed it perfectly fine. His board shattered. Just the metal and the wood just completely disintegrated below him. No one's ever done it since. There's actually a whole bunch of people who've tried it. They've broken their legs. He did fine. Since then, no one can do it because they built an elevator. That's how high it is. So think of this maybe as an elevator pitch. You better believe that. Success isn't judged by the logo on your shoes. The only piece of success is traction, right? The only true thing is how much traction are you getting? That's what success is. Not by, I have Andreessen Horowitz investing, or I have this one investor or this other investor. No one cares. This is maybe the guy with the most logos on him in the skateboarding industry. Ryan Sheckler, and he had a reality TV show or whatever. He's quoted as saying, to me, skateboarding isn't just a lifestyle. It wouldn't matter if I was pro or not. I'd still be skating every day. It's not about fundraising. It's not about paying yourself, right? Zuckerberg paid himself $1. It's about going after this business you believe in, or doing this, thing that you love, that you really care about. And raising a round of financing isn't the finish line. If you guys are thinking about financing right now, don't stop, because you have to think about your business first, right? Truly think about, how am I going to make this business work? Start proving that out, prove that you know what you're doing, and then talk to investors. And by the way, investment's not a finish line, and it's not a start line. It's just part of the journey. And on top of that, it's incredibly distracting. The second one, as we get down, innovation never happens in isolation. And this is actually directly a quote I took from a guy named Rodney Mullen. Believe it or not, Rodney Mullen is quoted as saying, innovation never happens in isolation. He's like some punk skateboarder who I don't think did anything after high school, if he even graduated. But he's known for inventing the wildest tricks. And in fact, he kind of invented his own kind of branch or style of skateboarding, which is now the most popular skateboarding in the world, when he was a kid. He's known for these innovative tricks like doing handstands and then flips and then landing on them sideways and then doing something else for 45 seconds. And he's the first guy to say that he wasn't the one who invented it. Tricks, like ideas and businesses, all build off of each other, off of other concepts and after other ideas. And so to really innovate, you kind of have to break out of that bubble. Find a team of people who can push you, who can hold you accountable, who can expose your work for you or with you or push you or make challenges there or here or try it like this or something like that, just to push you harder, to expand your thinking, to expose your biases, to see what they've done, iterate on it, make it better. The true kind of 10x returns don't happen inside of anyone's head. It happens inside of the market. So how do you get those ideas out there? How do you get other people seeing them? How do you, get those first prototypes or MVPs into people's hands so that you can learn what you've done wrong? There's a great product quote by a guy named David Cancel, which is kind of always assume you're wrong and then figure out by how much. And once you figure out by how much, you start getting closer to the true innovation of your idea. All right, the first one, the idea is the easy part. And I'll maybe sum this up with one of the coolest ramps in skateboarding. This is an 80-foot high ramp that you drop in on, and then you go 70 feet to another ramp where you go flying down, and then you can do a really cool trick about 46 meters or feet in the air. Now, the first guy who did it, he cleared the 70-foot gap, and then he went up 46 feet high, and then he found himself with no skateboard. So that's just another example of maybe the best people are the craziest. But that was the idea, right? The idea is kind of, any kid can draw a ramp like that. It's a cool idea. But that's something else to actually build it and see it happen and help build it. It's something completely different. Really cool. Totally terrifying to stand on the top of, right? And to kind of cheer someone on as they go down it. Again, you better believe in what you're doing if you're going to do it. And then maybe even more terrifying is being the guy standing there trusting that all of this hard work is going to pay off in the end somehow. But when you actually do go down and you start rolling and picking up speed, it's the most exciting, terrifying, stupid, scary, dumb, awesome, exhilarating, fun thing you'll ever be glad that you do.